If you have ever found yourself on a construction site, you've probably ran into a lot of miserable people there. Maybe you were even one of them. And this goes all the way from the laborers who just swing a hammer up to the owner, the contractors themselves. I have been one of these people. Sometimes I still am one of these people. The first reason that being a contractor and working in construction in general is so miserable is the customers. It's not all the customers. But see what I've got in my hand here? If you specifically are an interior finishes contractor, you are familiar with the sticky note. Can you just replace this board here? Oh, this part over here, it doesn't look good. You've dealt with this. It is beyond unpleasant to come in and find sticky notes of how the customer doesn't like something all over your work. Now, sometimes it's justified. Sometimes we've done a bad job. Our workers have done a bad job, and it needs to be called out. But let's talk about what really goes on. We usually have one of several things happening. First off, we work with, 150, 200 people a year. That's about how many projects we do. And there is a certain percentage of people. I would say about 10% of our customers will be happy no matter what. I mean, we could do a D- job and they're still happy. And then there's a large majority of people that just want a pretty good job and they're happy. Maybe we'll call that 60%. Then we'll call about the last 30%. These people are a little bit negative. They are looking for a problem and they may find something to complain about. Out of that 30%, there is 10%, so about 1 in 10 customers are just wildly unpleasant people. They're going to complain about something. They're going to want money off the bill. There's going to be a problem because they are a problem. So if this person is given any bit of leeway to complain on something, if even the slightest bit of mistake has been made, this person is going to make your life hell. In the estimating process, we've gotten a lot better at spotting these people. I'm going to tell you some of the red flags. 1, they've had problems with other contractors. If they're complaining to you about another contractor at the estimate, even if it sounds like a legitimate complaint, this is probably somebody you don't want to work with. I'm going to tell you right now, out of all the people I've ever worked with, most people I can have a good outcome with, at least an okay outcome with. I'm not going to go running them down to others. But if I meet you and the first thing you're telling me is how badly your experience was with somebody else, there's a good chance that you were part of that bad experience. Another red flag is simply occupations. There are people who work in certain fields that are going to be very, very hard to please. These are people who usually work very precise jobs like engineers or anybody in a similar field where the tiny little details are what they focus on all day. I had a guy who was an F-16 fighter pilot mechanic. That guy needs to pay attention in his job to make sure the pilot is safe. Well, he paid attention to everything we did, and your wood floor doesn't need to be as detailed as the mechanics on an F-16. He didn't agree, all right? So we ended up redoing thing after thing after thing, even though they were well above passing standards. It's always a great idea at the estimate to ask, what do you do for a living? And certain occupations, you need to know that going in. The idea that it's fair to charge everybody the same price is simply not true. If you know somebody is going to expect a higher level of detail than what you're normally used to doing, or maybe a higher level of detail than even what the industry standards are, you need to charge them for that level of detail that you're going to be expected to bring to the project. And this brings me to price point. Everybody wants you to do a great job on prep. They want you to do a great job on cleanup. They want you to pay attention to every little detail, but they don't want to pay you for that, all right? So there's a select group of people who are willing to pay for that, but this group is small. And these are the people that we want to work for. Everybody else, they expect all the same things, but they're not paying for them. Unless you included hours in your quote to do all this prep work, to do all this cleanup work, you've got to set these expectations on the front end of the estimate. You're going to be familiar with what the complaints are in your specific industry. For example, in hardwood, these are, hey, if you don't want to pay us to do the trim, we're going to beat your trim up. We're going to run our machines around. It's going to be scuffed up, might get some stain on it. We would love for you to pay us to do new trim, but if you don't want to pay for it, then I'm telling you right now, we're going to beat up the trim. And 2, it's also in our terms of service that you have to sign. if they're willing to pay that higher price point and get the new trim put on and have it painted, we totally get away from that. So it is often our customers that don't have the budget to pay for all the bells and whistles, but they think they're getting the bells and whistles. And we have to set those expectations if we're going to work for those people. Ideally, we just work for the people who have the budget to do the full 9 yards. But that's simply not always going to be the case, especially when you're getting started. So if you vet your customers, you look out for the red flag people at the estimates, and then you set expectations about the price point that they're paying so they know exactly what you're going to do and what you're not going to do. And you may even need to go as far as to reference the industry standards. For example, if you're a painter and you're going to be working on a handrail, you might want to reference, so we follow the whatever national painting standards where work can be inspected at normal light, 3 foot up and 5 feet back, or whatever it is. I don't know what it is. If you do these things, you're well on your way to making your life more pleasant immediately. A nasty customer stresses me out more than just about anything in business. I didn't sign up to be a terrorist negotiator. And if you do run into a customer who is a true terrorist and is just going to take you down, even if they go down with them, get away from them, all right? You're not going to win. You're not going to win. Stop trying to collect the money. Stop trying to take them to court. Throw the lien on their house and walk away. We've covered the first reason why it's so miserable to work as a contractor, who you work for. But let's talk about who you work with. The first question I have for you is, do they want to be there? You know, did they want to be carpenters? Did they want to be a tile setter? Or did they want to do something else? And they just made poor life choices. And because of that, they're at your company just collecting a paycheck, burning their life away, and they're miserable. Because if they are miserable, they're a bad apple, and they are going to spoil the bunch. They're going to make your life miserable by both their attitude and their work. If you don't want to be somewhere, you're just not going to do the same level of work that somebody who does want to be there will do. Sloppy mistakes are going to come from these people, and you can talk to them all you want, and they may want to please you to some degree, and they may listen and shape up just a bit, but you got to get the people out of your company that don't want to be there, all right? The next category is employees with no aspirations. Now, maybe these people are fine to be at your company. They don't have any bigger plans, and they never did, but they're just fine doing what they're doing. These type of people are never going to grow your business because they're happy with how things are. So anything in the terms of growth, doing things better, learning new skills, these people aren't going to be interested, all right? And for every single one of these people who don't want to be there or have no aspirations, they're going to drag you down. They're going to drag the team down. Every single person you put in your company is an apple in that bag. You get one rotten apple, it soon starts to spread to the other apples. The next big problem with your employees that will make you miserable as a contractor is mental health. I've had it inside my company on multiple occasions, and I'm not recommending you fire people with mental health problems, but you need to help them get treatment. That might mean getting a healthcare plan. It might mean just ponying up some cash if you're not ready for that to help them go get seen. But a huge amount of people in our industry, we don't have healthcare. And even if we did have healthcare, mental health is not something we talk about. You know, we would get made fun of for saying we're going to a therapist or taking some drugs for a mental health problem. But I think ADHD runs rampant. I think a huge amount of people in my company have it who are not diagnosed. I'm probably one of them, all right? But ADHD is not just this thing where you can't focus and you're like kind of scatterbrained. But there's a lot more to it than that, and I would highly recommend you read up on it so you can spot it in your employees and maybe you can help them get treated. Obviously, we've got depression, anxiety. I've had multiple guys work for me who were crew leads, and they couldn't take the pressure of having to communicate with the homeowner because it was just too stressful for them. And I understand that there's definitely stressful parts. I mean, we talked about customers first, but a lot of this stuff was not that bad, and they were all stressed out by it. They had anxiety problems, and you got to help them get treated for this stuff, all right? Care for these people. Take care of them. And now what I'm going to say is a tough pill to swallow. But your employees are a reflection of you. The problems that you have, I guarantee you that you see them in your employees, but you may not see them in yourself. The unpleasantness that you're bringing, maybe you don't want to be there, all right? You're the leader. You've got to be casting a vision for these people in your company that they can follow, that they can aspire to. And you've got to really care for them. And if you're not doing these things, if you're not bettering yourself and addressing the problems you have in your own life, then you're probably going to make your employees miserable. And you think it's them doing it to you when maybe it's you doing it to them. So we've covered who we work for and who we work with. If we fix both these things, we're well on our way to feeling much happier about our work as contractors. All right? But let's move on to what we work on. Modern construction. You don't have to be a student of architecture today to know that the buildings we are building are largely pathetic. All right? They're cost-driven. We're building these big, ugly, ugly houses that are really just meant to have a lot of square footage. And then we take these elements that are popular, quartz countertops, vinyl floors, all this garbage, and we throw it in the house and we say this is a nice house. But there's no craftsmanship in there. Everything is caulked MDF garbage. There's nothing aspiring about building this. Whereas if you look at the old houses, you look at houses pre-World War II / pre-Great Depression, we actually built great houses. We've got our old Victorian houses, our craftsman houses. Some of these houses have just amazing details in the masonry, in the woodworking. Everything about them are just beautiful, well thought out, well designed. We've lost this. And I think in our souls, it's crushing to build these houses, to build these buildings that have no soul to them themselves. These buildings are garbage when they're built, let alone 20, 30 years down the road. We're not proud to say that our name is on a lot of the things that we're working on. And we can still come in there and we can provide good craftsmanship on our portion of it. But we've got to find a way to work on greater stuff, all right? And a lot of that is going to come down to you as a contractor. You're going to have to make some sacrifices to get there. You can do it. But in order to do awesome work, you have to be able to show people what's available. And that oftentimes means doing it for free in the beginning. You're going to have a client hire you. You know, we're a flooring company, so I'll use this as an example. You're going to have a client hire you to put in just a straight lay floor, all right? Well, if you want to break into doing awesome floors that were around back in the 1500s in like France, like some herringbone or a special parquet pattern, you may need to take the rate that client will give you to lay that floor straight, and then you need to eat all the extra time costs to do something special. And then take that, you put it on Instagram, you put it on YouTube, you show the world what you can do, and then you might be able to attract some clients down the road who are willing to pay you to do awesome work. When we do awesome work, it brings something alive in us. A lot of us, we grew up building tree houses and working on things. It is within us to work with our hands. But when we are stuck to doing just monotonous tasks in houses that are just uninspiring, it sucks the joy out of us. It sucks the energy out of us. It's not what we were built to do. So to be a whole lot happier in contracting, fix who you're doing it for, who you're doing it with, and what you're working on. I'll see you in the next video.